you look for the square root of 4, you have an exact number. But if you look for the square root of 3, you will not have an exact number. You will have 1 point so and so. That is, there will be point on it. But for 4, there will be no point on it. Now, for this particular number that we have the exact number, where you don't have any point, we call this perfect square. They are called the perfect square. Perfect square. So those you look for the square root and you have an exact number, or let me put it, that you look for the square root and you have a whole number, are called perfect square. So what are the perfect square? 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and so on. They are all called perfect square because if you look for their square root, you also have a whole number or an exact number. But what about for this now? You're not going to have an exact number, or let me say it is not a perfect square. Are you seeing it now? So they are called, these numbers are called irrational numbers. Irrational numbers. Please take note. These numbers are called irrational numbers. Please take note that these irrational numbers are called what we surd. These irrational numbers are called surd. So this is the first introduction that you have to understand in this topic, surd. The irrational numbers are called surd. So whenever you're giving something like this, please follow me carefully. Whenever you're giving something like this, 50, to simplify, what do? You must introduce a perfect square. Now, what is a perfect square? Look for any perfect square that can go into this number. We have 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and so on, just like I listed it here. Now, which perfect square that can go into this number? The perfect square that can go into this number is 25 without remainder. 25 can go into this without remainder. 4 cannot go into it. 9 cannot go into it. 16 cannot go into it. So it's 25. So what you do, you write 25 times. 25 times what will give you 52. So what do? You can separate it. Please note that you can separate it because the laws of indices, the first law, we have mn. This is same as in root m times root n. You can separate it also. Are you seeing it now? If you have mn, this is same as in root m times root n. The second one, if you have m over n, this is same as in root m divided by root what? N. Are you seeing it now? Good. So in this case now, you can separate it to have root 25 times root 2. Remember, these irrational numbers are called the surd. Okay. So if you're following me, please drop 3 examples of irrational numbers. Drop 3 examples. If you're following me, drop 3 examples of irrational number. Please, I'm doing this class for foundational, those that are seeking for foundational help. Please, if you're following the class, drop 3 examples of irrational numbers. 3 examples of irrational number. And I've told you that this is not an irrational number. This is a perfect square number. Perfect square number. Perfect square number. Why? Because if you look for the square root, you have a whole number. So this now, square root of 25 is, what are you going to multiply? Square root of 75 simply means 5. Which number are you going to multiply 2 times that will give 25 is 5 times. You cannot look at the square root of this one. That's why they are called irrational numbers and they are what? Surd. So these 2. Please note this. Since this is not carrying root any longer, don't multiply this times this inside though. What you do is just to say 5 root 2. Please take note of that. So if you have m times root n, you can't multiply this and this. You only say m root n. But assuming this is root m times root n. Are you seeing this now? In root form, you can now say m n. You cannot multiply it because this one has root, this one has root. But when there is no root and this one has root, you can't multiply this and this. You keep this one outside this way. So that is it. So this is the first step as a beginner that wants to learn surd. I'm going to teach chapter 2. Just follow me carefully. You're going to understand everything about surd. So I'm giving you the first rule that if you have mn, this is the same thing as m times n. And if you have m divided by n, this is the same thing as m divided by n. Is a rule of surd. So if you understand this, please drop 3 examples of irrational numbers for me. Please drop 3 examples of irrational numbers. See you in my next class. Thank you. I'm going to continue with chapter 2. Please invite your friends to join my class. Thank you.